G'day fellas and welcome to the very first look at two new civilizations in Age of Empires 4. This is the brand new expansion, Knights of Cross and Rose. My name is Ozzy Drongo, I'm a creator over on YouTube, and joining me today is Frank, a designer from Forgotten Empires. Frank, how are you doing today?
I am doing great, and I'm thrilled to be looking at some Knights of Cross and Rose gameplay with you, Drongo.
Yeah, it's super exciting. We've got two new civilizations here. We've got a variant for the English and a variant for the French. And I think I want to just start by putting the words variant in very loose quotes because these are pretty dissimilar from the original civs.
Yeah, when we first started with variants as a concept, the initial scope and idea was very small for Sultan's Ascent, and as we worked with the concept of variants and kind of developed them behind the scenes initially for that first DLC, we started to realize more and more the true potential of what we could be doing with variants instead. And I think Knights of Cross and Rose, in my belief, is really displaying at full strength what a variant can be, which is very distinguished, like its own full-fledged faction within the game that stands out both in gameplay, feel, and historical references, right?
Yeah, it's definitely come into its own because now we see the second variant coming out for the French civilization. And let's talk a little bit about what makes these civilizations different, because this will be the first time that many people will be seeing these civilizations for the first time. We might start with the English variant, just because I think for most people when they start getting into Age of Empires, the English is normally the first point of call. So what are some of the differences here? I already start to see some. Specifically, we've got a spearman in the Dark Age. This isn't usual.
Yeah, exactly. That's one thing that's quite different for House of Lancaster would be the roster, as well as the economy. The landmarks are mixed up, so quite a lot of differences between them and the English. And it looks like Mike, one of our balanced playtesters, is putting Felipe on the back foot with a little bit of a spear rush here, right? Trying to pressure the gold. Very interesting, right? But yeah, that's a big thing. Normal English, they have access to the Vanguard Man-at-Arm, and then the early Man-at-Arm, and then the Man-at-Arm, right? Whereas here, House of Lancaster has the generic spear line in the Dark Age.
Yeah, it's great to see the differences. And one of the other key differences, I guess, that we'll see in this expansion, or rather this DLC, is that we've got a little bit of, at least when I first saw it, I thought immediately of Age of Empires 3, because no longer do the Knights Templar age up with a landmark. Instead, they're calling upon additional support through the town center, and that's an age up that's coming through, the Knights Hospitaller, and there's a whole bunch of bonuses that come through from them. So did you want to talk a little bit about the way that you guys went about designing this and the choices behind this? Because I love this. This is a great change and a great variant from the original French.
Yeah, so exactly. This it's a really unique concept, and we're really excited about it. So the gameplay of it is you pick between three allies. These would be establishing commanderies in theme, and you get a unique unit that you unlock and a permanent bonus for the rest of the game. So it's this kind of pairing of bonus and unit, and you get to build up your unique roster as you age up, and you get to kind of combo these bonuses together to kind of get your own unique twist on the civ. So there's tons of combinations within that system, and we're really excited about it. Yeah, it's just a really fun system. I'm really happy with it and how it turned out. I think it's been really, really fun.
I think it's definitely going to take a while for everybody to sort of work out the best combos, because I know for me, I'm definitely more of a min-maxer. I love to try and find out what the best is, and just going in and having a look at them initially, I think at first glance I was thinking, okay, this one's going to be quite strong, this one's going to be a bit weaker, but all of them seem very viable, which is kind of rare when it comes to balance in strategy games. But let's talk a little bit about what's happening on the south side of the map, because it looks like Mike has started his own age up. Tell me about this landmark that we're seeing. This is new.
Yes, so the brand new Lancaster Castle. So it's actually pretty interesting. So it kind of interacts with the manor system, and manors are new to House of Lancaster. It's a unique building that you can build starting in the feudal age that grants you resources over time. So it's essentially an investment system where you build these buildings and you get resources over time. Now, one of the big drawbacks of this is if you build a lot of manors really quickly, well, you might have a lot of income, but you're not going to have any units to defend them. And the Castle Lancaster complements that very nicely. The more manors you build, the better the levies become from the Castle Lancaster, which immediately calls some units to aid you. And so it kind of has this complementary style where you can kind of invest in manors and then see if you can get away with it by building the Castle Lancaster and getting these levies out at just the right time.
Yeah, levies are something that we'll talk more about in this video, but the Castle Lancaster, or Lancaster Castle, has got 3 different levies that it can call upon, and depending on how many manors you've got will depend on how many units you get. I think you get a baseline amount of units, and then you also get additional units. So if we take a look here, you'll see that the first one that starts off gives you 2 demi-lancers and an additional 1 for each manor. So you could call it right now and get 2, or you could wait for all of your manors to come online and you could get 11. And that's definitely the way I'd be looking to play it.
Yeah, it's certainly a risk-reward thing. Do you want to try and wait until you have all your manors to get the maximum value out of the landmark? Or do you need the power now? Do you need them to save you? Because they train rather quickly. So it's kind of like a little safety panic button. Oh, there's a pilgrim walking south. There's
a pilgrim on the way south. Before we talk about the pilgrim, though, we'll just take a quick look at the manors because they are about to complete. And any Age of Empires 3 fans or players in the past will easily begin to identify these buildings from, well, no, I shouldn't say easily be able to identify, but they might see some parallels from Age of Empires 3. I guess myself, as a previous Age of Empires 3 player, loved playing the Dutch, and these are reminding me a lot of the banks. The way that they generate resources means that my entire economy can be idled out by the raiding cavalry, except for these manors that are going to keep on pumping resources even though my villages aren't working. So I'm a big fan of the manor. It's a great little system, and I guess one of the key differences though is that the manor is not particularly strong. They don't have a lot of health, so you do need to be cautious with them because they are quite expensive.
Yeah, I know. And you talk about AoE4, it's funny. There are certainly correlations to the bank brought up, especially when we were in the early design phase. We were looking at how other games had handled a system like this, and of course, the Dutch came to mind, right? It's hard not to see the correlation there, but yeah, it's a very interesting system, and I'm really excited to see how players engage with it and interact with it. We have a lot of like balanced tunables for the future. You know, there's these techs that give you access to more, and oh, we got some action.
We indeed do. We can see one of the differences between these civilizations, or I guess one of the similarities between these civilizations and the English is that we do still have the short bow on the villager, because there are obviously differences with the variant civilizations, but there are also similarities. So one of the differences is you won't hear that town bell ringing, indicating that we're receiving that attack speed bonus. But here, it looks like Mike is taking quite a few villager losses. He's looking to try and get that last little bit of stone in the kitty. Unfortunately, loses quite a bit there. But yeah, so you don't pick up that extra attack speed, but you do still have the short bow, which gives you that little bit of defensive edge, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. There's a couple shared facets with both the English and the House of Lancaster, namely a lot of the building set, the look of some of the units. But yeah, like you said, there's the defensive Bierig bonus where you get an extra arrow on your town center, and you also get bows on your vills, as well as some of the dock elements such as cheaper ships and the Admiral's tech for more range. Those are also shared assets or elements, right? But the rest of House of Lancaster is very distinct from English.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fan favorite for many years to come. Let's talk a little bit about this unique unit that I've seen. It kind of looks a little bit like a man-at-arms. What is this unit exactly, Frank?
So that is the Hospitaller Knight. So that is the unit that Felipe has unlocked with his first Feudal Age commandery choice. So he aged up to unlock this unit, and he is making good use of it here. You'll see it probably start to heal up the next time he takes a little break, but it's a man-at-arm unit that can heal both. It can heal each other. So you see they pull out the staff and do this cool animation as they are healing each other up like a monk would. So you can see now the squad is ready to go and engage the opponent once more.
Yeah, it's a really fun unit. It takes a while to get used to, but I guess one of the other things to note is that when it comes, oh my lord, take a look at the amount of manors that we're starting to see coming out right here as well for Mike. He's doing an incredible job on the economic front. This is 9 minutes in and he's already picked up, I think, almost all of his manors. He's probably only got about 3 left to go, so definitely doing well, but this could be a painful loss for him here.
Yeah, losing the manors is really tricky. As you can see, he's built that investment, but there's the Demi-Lancers, so that first levy from the Castle Lancaster has been brought in. And so you can see it's that power you've been playing. You put yourself on the back foot by making those investments, and then this is kind of your reward for making it to this point in the game, is you get to call these units in. But yeah, we'll see how many more manors Mike is able to build this game as he has pushed off stone, and they do cost some stone. So there's a bit of competing cost in your economic growth between the town center and the manors.
They definitely do. Now, one of the things to note is that when it comes to the Knights Templar roster, it's very standard for the majority of your units. So you've got your archers, you've got your spearmen, and when it comes to your infantry, you've got these little guys right here, the Hospitaller Knights, that are going to be running as essentially your men-at-arms, at least in the feudal age. And they're quite effective at doing that. But let's talk a little bit about the English side and about the Demi-Lancer. This is another unique unit, or a brand new unit that we've got. So how would you describe this unit, Frank?
So it's definitely not on the same tier as a knight in terms of just raw power. It's more of like a mounted frontline, so it's armored like a man-at-arm. It has pretty low damage for how big the unit is, but has very high health pool and effective health. So you can use it as a frontline unit, but it's not going to just rip through enemy armored units and deal tons of damage in these raids. I mean, it's going to be effective, but it's not the most effective damaging unit. Somewhere between a Sofa and a Keshik, I would say.
Right, okay. And are there any ways that you can increase the damage of this unit other than just your standard blacksmith upgrades?
So the Demi-Lancer is only accessed through landmarks, so you can only get it through the levies at the Castle Lancaster and via a special army at the Wingard, which is available in Imperial Age. Otherwise, the Demi-Lancer shadow techs, as you age up to Castle Age, it'll get a little more powerful. As you go to Imperial Age, it'll get a little more powerful. It'll benefit from your standard cav techs, but also there's a unique bonus for the House of Lancaster, in which their man-at-arm replacement, the Earl's Guard, and their Demi-Lancers get additional damage from having any keeps on the field. So every keep will give them 1 more damage. So you can have 4 keeps and you'll get 4 more damage on your Demi-Lancers. It's a nice way to kind of boost them in the late game if you're able to get a bunch of keeps out.
Yes, and there is a way that you can increase that if you do go for the Berkshire, which we may potentially see today, because I've heard good things about the quality of this game from Frank. But Frank, what are the things we haven't talked about yet? As we do see the age up coming through for the Castle Age now for our Knights Templar player, and we also see it at the same time coming in for Mike, but we haven't talked about these little guys right here. Tell me, who are these folks?
So these are the pilgrims for the Knights Templar. This is one of their main economic bonuses, where these pilgrims will travel from the town center, your starting town center, the capital town center, also called the Templar, what's it called? The headquarters. Yeah, the Templar headquarters. Took me a moment there. Yeah, so they travel from the headquarters all the way to a sacred site of your choice, upon which they will celebrate and give you some gold. This is a key way the Civ scales, because every fortress that you build will increase the number of travelers by 1. So you want to have as many as you can, up to a maximum of 10 per trip. They spawn every minute, so like trade, they will go back and forth, and therefore the distance has a very meaningful indicator to how much gold you'll get. Whereas here, because they spawn every minute, it means that you just want to make sure they're getting as much gold as you can, and you'll get that much GPM per pilgrim, kind of. So it's a very interesting with gold per minute for the uninitiated and all my lingo. But yeah, it's a very interesting system. You have to find a way to protect your pilgrims, which can involve building fortresses and walls and keeping them safe. Notably, you can't control the pilgrims, so they're just sort of an automated system that happens, and you have to protect them in their wild travels across the lands.
And with regard to their strength, they're actually worth quite a bit. So 119 gold, if that's coming in every minute, that's equivalent to about 3 villages. So if you were to lose these 2 pilgrims, that's the equivalent of losing 6 villages for that minute, which is substantial. That is a huge amount of resources. So definitely prioritizing protecting the pilgrims is going to be definitely going to be an important component of any Knights Templar gameplay. So we've got a little bit of a battle that's unfolding at the moment. The White Tower is defending. Can you tell me about the differences between this White Tower and the White Tower that we'd be used to from the normal English?
So for normal English, they have the bonus where they can build units from every keep. And that is no longer a part of House of Lancaster. That is unique to English. And so the White Tower for English gives you faster production speed for that. And obviously without being able to produce units, the production speed would be rather useless. So on this version of the White Tower, you simply just get the 3 man-at-arms. You get 3 Earl's Guards when it completes, like you would with any keep, and you get the 1 additional damage. We found that works that's just so powerful for the way that House of Lancaster plays, that's enough. With the White Tower, you get these 3 Earl's Guards, you can see them there, and they had 1 additional damage, so you get a lot of tempo when you finish this, but it's on the field from that House Unified bonus.
It's really great to see, and it can be tough as well, because obviously the Earl's Guard is a men-at-arms replacement, and men-at-arms are notorious for how tanky and strong they are, but now all of a sudden you're giving them extra damage. So I guess you can appreciate how careful you've got to be with something like that, because, well, you know, big strong units that are all of a sudden doing lots of damage can be very painful, I can suspect, for those balance testers.
Yeah, and Earl's Guards on top of that can also throw a dagger at enemies, so the damage can be found in more than one ways, and it kind of becomes a little ranged unit, which is quite cool. Oh, we see some heavy spearmen as well, which is the unit that Felipe unlocked from the Angevin Empire, which was the Castle Age alliance he picked. The alliances we chose were pretty interesting for the commandery system. We actually studied who the Knights Templar fought with in the Crusades, and so it's roughly mapped out across the Crusades. Like, this is kind of when their most relevant alliances were. Of course, it's not perfect. Like, there's a couple mainstays throughout all the Crusades, like the English in the Angevin Empire, but we just chose some good options from each, like, era of the Crusades to kind of offer as the alliances available to the Templars. It's an interesting little tidbit there.
Yeah, they're very different. They're very versatile. I look forward to getting into the Imperial Age and talking a little bit about the Venetians if we get the chance. But tell me a little bit about this spearman that we've got. So this is a heavy spearman. How exactly does this unit work, and how do we counter it? Because these archers aren't doing a whole lot of damage to these spearmen, and normally archers counter spearmen. You can see right there, not even able to one-shot with all of these archers.
Yeah, the Yeoman not quite able to take him down because they are an armored unit. If you clicked on one, you saw that it had 4/4 base armor, so it's a heavily armored unit. It is a little bit slower than a normal spearman, but because of that armor, crossbows are extremely effective against it, as is anything with bonus against heavy armored units.
Right, so we'd be looking to counter this effectively just with the crossbow, because obviously the heavy spearman is going to be quite effective against lancers or knights. So that's going to be a key component whenever you see these units out on the battlefield, and obviously they are a bit slower as well. So even in this situation where there's no crossbow, the yeomen were easily able to kite away from the heavy spearmen.
Yeah, the yeoman compared to the longbowman. So the longbowman, as a unique archer, gains damage and range at the cost of speed and a little bit of price, right, on the unit cost. And the yeoman is a little bit different from that. It has the range and it has increased speed, but it deals a normal damage of an archer, so it doesn't have that additional 1 damage, so it's a little bit worse against some other units in the game than the longbowman.
Yeah, we actually just saw right then the synchronized shot upgrade has now arrived for our House of Lancaster player. I'm looking forward to seeing this. It can be incredibly painful playing up against this. Can you tell me a little bit about the inspiration for how this came about, this ability?
Well, synchronized shot is just sort of like the dream, right, of all archer players, and it is like the history of longbowmen. They sort of just lined up and shot at unsuspecting foes who didn't really respect the range or the penetrative power of the longbow, right? And so synchronized shot, you can select a location on the ground for all of your longbows, your yeomen, sorry, to shoot this shot, arcing shot, and they'll all deal damage kind of in a little AoE at that point you targeted. It's extremely fun to use, if I may say so myself, and hopefully we get to see Mike using that in the near future here.
Yeah, can you tell me about the range of it as well? Because I tried to do some math. So if we look at the base range of a yeoman, it starts out at 6 tiles of range. It felt like it was about double the range of what they can actually... Oh no, what do we have here? It felt like it was about double the range, though, of a standard yeoman. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, it's pretty close. I forget the exact number. I think we had to reduce it. I think it might be 12 tiles. I don't think so. I don't believe it's 12 tiles. We might have tuned that down a little bit. I forget the exact number off the top of my head, but it is notably larger. One of the main things that the synchronized shot is good against is lightly armored units. So it's really, really effective to use that against your opponent's backline. So their archers, their crossbows, their hand cannons. It can be really devastating in that regard. Like we see there. Oh, so many units go down.
Yeah, well, that is scary. That is really scary. Now, we see the Knights Templars in a little bit of an awkward spot. He's attempted to put down a brand new fortress on this sacred site, trying to defend it, trying to guarantee safe passage for those pilgrims. However, he's run into a little bit of trouble here, hasn't he?
Yeah, it looks like he's gonna have enough units though, Felipe, to clear this up. Maybe the armored spearmen there are gonna be pretty good against a lower number of archers here, and maybe some of the armor techs came in for him. So yeah, it's definitely a bit of a pickle there. Those yeomen proved quite devastating, right? We saw that synchronized shot just tear apart his initial backline, and that was a challenge for him for sure.
Yeah, definitely, definitely did a lot of damage. Now, behind the scenes, while this fortress was going up, we did see another age up coming through from Mike. Looks like he has gone for... There we go, the Wingard Palace is now online. So this is different from the Berkshire. It's also different from the original Wingard Palace that you'll be used to, but there are some similarities. As an example, the crossbow, spearman, and treb combo that we all love so much, it is still available. But let's talk a little bit about these other combos that we might potentially see.
Yeah, and you're seeing one queued up already, the Garrison Command. You get to really quickly get 8 Spearmen and 1 Earl's Guard. So it's super quick and very cheap, so it's a very cost-effective way of getting a big, massive infantry out. Of course, you will need to upgrade the Spearmen to match the Imperial Age. And gone are the Wingard Ranger and the Wingard Footman, which are unique to the English. So here we have kind of some different things. We have the Earl's Guard Spearman, and we mentioned before the Demi Lancer. That is unique to landmarks, so you can only get it from the Castle Lancaster and the Earl's Retinue here. So you're able to get 6 Demi Lancers and 2 Hobilar for a pretty fair price, pretty low on gold there. So able to mass produce those heavily armored frontline units. And then the final option is the Gunpowder Contingent, which gives you 2 Randys, as you call them, I believe, 2 Rimaldikins, and 1 Culverin. You can't get Rimalds elsewhere on Lancaster, so this is the only way, is through this imported gunpowder.
Yeah, it's an important component of any army, having Rimaldikins in the back. So yeah, it was lovely to see them included. Now, there was a unit here that we haven't mentioned yet, the Hobbler. Can you tell me a little bit about the Hobbler? What is the Hobbler, and will we see it hobbling around this game?
I'm not sure if it's produced this game. I would presume at some point it will be, as it's a very important tool in the Lancaster set. It's a very, very cheap horseman. It's a very cheap, so it's 90 total resources. 20 of that is gold, however, so that is a big difference between standard horseman and the Hobilar. The Hobilar exchanges sort of damage and general durability for good durability against archers specifically, because it has a relatively high ranged armor. Ooh, nice shot there from Mike. But yeah, the Hobbler has 3 ranged armor in the Feudal Age, which makes it very durable against feudal archers. And then of course that will scale up as you tier it up. So Mike doesn't have the upgrades for it yet, but as you get up to veteran and elite, that ranged armor gets very high and makes it very good against defensive arrows and against archers.
Well, we'll look forward to seeing those upgrades coming through. He's looking to pick up a couple of upgrades at the moment, +3 range attack. He's got to be careful not to lose these vills, but we see another pop coming out, the Demi Lancer. Their upgrades are really starting to shine now. Keep in mind they do Shadow Tech, as you mentioned earlier, so they are going to be having a lot of upgrades that come through for free, and now looking to hit the backline here once again with the synchronized shot. Got some good damage off there, but still wasn't able to finish them off. It looks like the cavalry will be able to finish this one off for the moment, but there's a huge amount of economy buildings that are back here for our House of Lancaster player. Is this part of... I mean, if you were to define this civilization with 3 words, would you say economy is one of those words?
Certainly, right? The manors are really, really potent, especially once you get up to 9 of them. I'm not sure how many Mike has built yet, but 9 is that max, and you can get a unique tech at them called Scutage, which Mike has yet to get, which gives you a little trickle of gold. It's there on the W. Yeah, so that tech is really nice, giving you a little bit of gold, kind of reminiscent of enclosures for normal English, but it's not nearly as powerful, right? This caps out at the 9, so only 360 GPM. Or gold per minute, again. Oh, the lingo. Gotta be careful, you know?
Yes. Yeah, one of the things I noticed as soon as I saw this, I said, it reminds me of Coffee Trade in Age of Empires 3. It looks very similar, which was an upgrade that you could get that would increase the amount of banks that you could actually have. So there was a little part of me that thought maybe it was a bit of a nod to the Dutch in Age of Empires 3, because it's very similar. I'm sure many of the Age of Empires 3 players that are still playing Age of Empires 4 will see that and immediately recognize, hey, that looks kind of similar. But let's talk a bit more about the north of the map. The Knights Templar, they are in the Castle Age still. Felipe is looking to go Imperial shortly, and tell me a little bit about the aesthetics that we're seeing here with the town center. These buildings look vastly different to what we saw earlier. Does this change through the ages, or is it dependent on the flags that we end up aligning ourselves with? How does it work exactly?
So essentially, the entire building roster, if you will, the architecture set from French has been kind of has gotten a do-over for Knights Templar. It's repainted with the sandstone bricks and the different colors on the roofs. In Imperial Age, it's this like really deep black, which gives it really strong contrast against other civs. It makes sure that when you're panning over the Knights Templar base, you really feel like it's a different civ. Just one of the elements of work we did to ensure that Knights Templar stand out against the base French, similar to how we did with House of Lancaster. So just little details like that we hope players appreciate when playing with these variant civs.
It looks like another fortress will come up. Unfortunately, it looks like these trebuchets will be going down, though, as they've been caught out of position, and the new age up, the new alliance is coming through. Well, what's the best way to call these? Are these alliances?
They're technically called commanderies. That's the theming. So commanderies historically were kind of the source of the power of not just the Knights Templar, really all of the militaristic orders, right? They built these, essentially they were their headquarters in each region of the world, and they served as a source of logistics, their seats of power for regional, and very, very notably, they were the source of recruitment centers, and upon which they called all their religious brethren in the zone, in the area that they resided, right? And they would kind of pull them together to go on long journeys, right? So it was key to the organization of the Knights Templar, and that's why they're called commanderies.
Okay, so there we go. Well, they've reached the Imperial Age with the Polish commandery, and that's going to give them access to a little bit more health on their cavalry, a little bit more charge damage, and a unique unit that will now unlock. That is not the Templar, brother. Let me see if I can... There we go. We switch it over. It is called the... Frank, I'll go ahead and let you pronounce this one right here for us.
My pronunciation on some things is rough. I call it the Szlachta, but that might not be perfect Polish.
That sounded pretty good to me. The Szlachta.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds absolutely perfect. So
that's what I did.
It's
probably not right.
These are expensive units. Now, how many population do they take? Are they just a one population unit here?
They're a one pop. Yeah, if it was two pop, you would see a little 2 with the house below the timer.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so if there's no house below, it's always implied that it's 1. So yeah, that's a 1 pop unit. It's a very expensive knight, kind of reminiscent in power level of the Byzantine Cataphract, but with some notable differences. They have a really, really, really strong charge damage. So their charge damage is really high, and then that stacks even further with the Polish bonus, which buffs all of your cavalry charge damage. So their charge damage is superb. Furthermore, whenever they attack a unit, their Warhammer sort of cripples the armor of the enemy, and that means that the attack is slower. It just kind of hinders the opponent. So they're really good in a 1v1, especially against high damage units, because their damage effective DPS will go down quite a lot.
Okay, well, speaking of DPS, it looks like we're about to witness a lot of damage per second coming out in this battle. There's a lot of elite upgraded units, and now firing off towards the back. Look at the backline just completely melt to the yeoman. We also see those trebuchets firing, and they've got some fire going on with their shots as well. Can you tell us a little bit about the trebuchets?
Yeah, so unique to Knights Templar is their trebuchet and siege effectiveness, right? The Templars were very effective in both defensive and offensive sieges. One of the things that they did very frequently, or one of the things we do in this game, is the Trebs shoot 2 shots instead of 1. It looks really, really cool, deals more damage, and it can be upgraded even further to shooting 3. And this isn't just their standard trebuchet. This also applies to the Fortress trebuchet, the one that can be mounted atop their fortress, and it applies to the Venetian trebuchet, which is a ship. So that 2-shot flaming shot is it's wide-reaching on the Civ.
Let's see if we can spot it in action. We'll try and do our best to track the boulders as they come through, and easily able to take out the mining camp there, but I have a little bit of trouble here as the cavalry comes forward. So the Imperial Age is well and truly upon us here. We start to see some upgrades that are coming through. Felipe in particular has got a unique upgrade on the way through called Brigandine. Can you tell us a little bit about this upgrade?
Yeah, so it's really simple. It just gives light cavalry +2 ranged armor. And it applies to both the Horseman, which is a light cav, but it also applies to the Genitor, which is another light cav, which we aren't going to see this game, but it's the ranged javelin throwing cavalry that you get through Castile. Oh, we see a Fortress Trev as well. Lots of stuff coming in. But yeah, it's just another one of those techs. Knights Templar, they don't have gunpowder, so their late game, they have some scaling in some other ways to kind of compensate for the lack of hand cannons, the lack of bombards. So they have different ways of getting to those final, like, late game compositions.
So they don't have gunpowder. Can you tell us a little bit about why that is? I'm assuming it's something to do with historical accuracy?
There's an element of that. I mean, gunpowder started to exist before the ultimate demise of the Knights Templar, so in theory they could have hand cannons or something in the late game. This was more of a design and gameplay choice. We felt it just made more sense, and it opened up space for them to really focus on the melee units, which is kind of the power fantasy behind the Knights Templar in the first place, are these really kind of badass knights, right, who have this really crazy armor. They're really solid in the melee, and they're kind of like these warrior fanatics, and we wanted to capture that, and we felt it was good if we were able to really like narrow down on that identity by kind of keeping it really focused.
Okay, well that definitely explains it. Let's talk a little bit more about these trebuchets, because we've obviously got a trebuchet that is on top of this keep, or on top of this castle. It's firing off towards the enemy forces. It's got some decent range on it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it has some additional range as it is immobile, right? It can't move from that spot, and now that you've paid for it, it is there forever until the fortress dies. And you can see that you're able to actually click on it, which means that, you know, Felipe, he's able to independently target it from the keep. So you can just sort of select it and select nearby buildings. Now, this is primarily anti-building. It's not the best against units or even siege. It's not great in that role. But if you are able to get a fortress in a position that would be a spot where opponent would ever want to build or has already built buildings, it's exceptional for dealing with enemy defenses, as it's pretty hard for cavalry to come by and just quickly snipe the fortress.
Yeah,
as opposed to a trebuchet, right?
Well, and that's exactly it, right? The trebuchet is always going to be safe now because it's on top of the fortress. But in this situation, as an example, you might want to come up and challenge this gold. You might want to put a keep next to the gold. Well, you're not going to be able to do that here because that trebuchet is just completely blocking that.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, right? And there's also situations where you can build the fortress on the side of a match. You know, maybe your opponent has built a bunch of walls there and you just want a clean way of breaking through. Or other situations where you're going for a big push, you can build a forward fortress and then add the trebuchet on top. So there's a lot of use cases for this. Of course, it is a bit limited. You know, you don't have that cannon emplacement, which is really good against groups of units, and this does not have the same firepower. So it's a bit of give and take there for the fortress in the late game.
I guess one of the good things about it is you do still have access to that burning oil. So in the event you do want to deal with large masses of units, you'll have to wait for them to get close before you can start burning. Let's take a look at the back line over here. So we've got some more pilgrims on the way. At the moment, it's only 3. Now, we did see a castle go down, or a fortress rather, go down a little bit earlier in this game. So with the fortress being taken out, that's going to reduce the amount of pilgrims that are migrating or that are on pilgrimage. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. So each fortress adds 1 more pilgrim to the pilgrimage, right? And so the initial tech gives you 1. There's a follow-up tech that gives you a second. And then if you want any more pilgrims, which is a lot more gold, you'll need to keep adding fortresses to really make them feel safe and feel welcome. So is the narrative, I guess, behind it.
Do you think that there's a world where we start to see players opting for fortresses in the feudal age, just to defend their pilgrims, but to also start boosting their economies?
We'll see. It's definitely a bit tricky. The fortress is a full-scale keep, so even if you gave it to the player, it depends on the game state, I think. Hopefully, right? It is available in the feudal age for that reason, so we'll see if players are able to make use of it.
All right, well, quite a bit of a push coming through here from our Knights Templar player. Sacred Victory is also approaching, which is definitely quite thematic, isn't it?
Oh yeah, and you can see that Felipe has built that fortress just in range of the sacred site, and that's really important because it has an aura, and it's indicated by the, you can see them, they're in the range, the treasure towers. You can see the little treasure chest on top of the fortress there, right? They're in the 3 turrets. Yeah, so those kind of tell you that the player has received this treasure tower upgrade, which increases the gold gen of monastery, sacred sites, and pilgrims. So that sacred site is granting more basic income just from its passive ticking. The relics are giving more gold, and when the pilgrims arrive, they're getting more gold. So this fortress is really important to Felipe's economy right now.
There you go. So not only is it providing more pilgrims, but it's also providing all of those bonuses. So quite a lot that's going on. Now, it looks like we've got some traders out here as well for our House of Lancaster player, but unfortunately they've been idled out. It's quite an offensive that's been put on here by the Knights Templar. Out of these two civilizations, Frank, which one are you more drawn towards?
Ooh, depends on the day. I mean, synchronized shot is... It's very cathartic to use. It feels really, really fun to me. I really like using that ability, but Templars might have my heart just from a historical perspective, from a fun perspective, that the whole civ together, it just really feels like it came together, and I'm really happy with it. So I don't know, it's tough. I can't answer.
That's
both
all right.
of them. Can I say both?
You can say both. We'll accept that. It's yeah. I've got to say, when it
Make me choose.
initially for me it was the House of Lancaster, and then the more I started playing with the Knights Templar, I was like, you know, this is good, but I like this. Knights Templar are very fun. I think that the thing I enjoy the most about the Knights Templar is that when it comes to choosing your commanderies, they are mutually exclusive. You choose one, and then that's it, and then you're stuck with that unit for the rest of the game, and then from there you can look to combo that unit here. And, you know, look to try and evolve it. So, as an example, in this army, we don't really see a whole lot of presence. It's primarily just archers that are being used, a couple of units that are being mixed in, a Hospitaller Knight. But we've seen them to great effect throughout this game as more horsemen continue coming down, the Drebs doing their work. It's just a really fun little mechanic that you can employ in the game that just allows you to really give quite a bit of replayability.
Yeah, exactly. Whether you're playing with or against the Knights Templar, I think you're going to find that the games are really different game to game, depending on how your opponent's feeling. And of course, like, meta might get solved one day and there's one path, but we'll really work hard to balance that and make sure that all the paths have their use cases. You know, it's generally probably going to be quite matchup dependent if you're playing at a high level, but I think for most players, it's just going to be how you're feeling, what you want to try, and hopefully you'll have some fun with it.
Yeah, I got to agree with you. As I said earlier in the cast, it's very much that all three of them felt like they're all viable. For me, I've got my personal favorite, but I can 100% see there are going to be people that say, no, I like this better. So yeah, it's definitely, it leaves quite a lot of, I think the word for me is replayability. I feel like you could just roll into 100 different games, and you probably couldn't do that many combos, but you could definitely try and make it work. But speaking of making it work, have a look at this. Randy getting off some decent shots on the defense, up against those melee units, just cleaning them out. It's looking like it might be curtains closing, though, for Mike here.
Yeah, he's just having trouble. That archer mass supported with all the frontline units, and you can see there, oh my gosh, how many treb shots just hit that wing guard, right? The archer mass plus all the frontline just so durable. Just proving to be quite a problem.
And you mentioned how many treb shots actually just hit that landmark. Keep in mind that there's quite a few upgrades that you can get for these trebuchets, including one that gives them an extra attack, or at least an extra burst damage, similar to the mangonels, and the way that they get their adjustable crossbars.
Yeah, and it looks like he has that tech, so that third shot was coming in. It's just such a big DPS increase. Now, that is sort of offset by the fact that Templars don't have access to the bombard, so they're going to be very reliant on the trebuchet for their ranged DPS against defenses.
Yeah, that's exactly it. All right, well,
the big flank, the Hobbler.
Yeah,
to the north.
He's
trying. Huge Hobbler flank.
Trying his best to bring it back in. 38 minutes into this game, the economies have been impressive this game. These guys have managed to keep up with each other. If we take a look at the final stat line here, looking at about 4.5k, and have a look at how much food Felipe is pulling in on the Knights Templar.
How many vills on food does he have?
82. Just 82.
80. It is a lot of farmers to cover this.
I suspect he may be looking to utilize, has he got a market? Indeed he does. He may be, we're not going to talk too much about it, but the Pilgrim loan, yeah, so he's actually using it at the moment. So the way that this works is quite simple. You trade your gold in, or rather you trade your food in, 4,000 food, and you'll be paid back gold over the course of the next 4 minutes. So you get 900 gold per minute for 4,000 food. And I tell you what, that is a great deal. I will take that deal every single day of the week.
Yeah, you certainly need a lot of food to maintain that, right? 4,000 food is a big click, but Yeah, without access to traders, which is one of the Knights Templar kind of drawbacks, they have the pilgrims instead of traders. So without traders, you kind of need a way to get some gold. And game has ended.
That is it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Knights of Cross and Rose DLC for Age of Empires 4. This is the first game that we'll be looking at. If you want to check the second game out, it'll be coming up right after this. Thank you once again, Frank, for joining me. G'day, fellas, and welcome to part 2 of this little DLC preview for Knights of Cross and Rose. Once again, I'm joined with Frank. Frank, how you doing?
I am doing great, Drongo. We just had a nice time looking at a 1v1 between Templars and Lancaster. Now we have a little 2v2 where they have partnered up against none other than me and my friend and my coworker Matt, but we'll see how this goes.
So tell us a little bit about the work that you do, because you're a designer over at Forgotten Empires. What's your day-to-day look like? Are you just sitting there drawing up new ideas for new civilizations all the time? Is that how it works?
Somewhat. That's part of my job, right? So our titles are based on project. So for Knights and Cross of Rose, I was the design lead, which meant that, at the start, I had quite a lot of responsibilities for initial design. So stuff like the historical battles, like what the initial plan was for that, stuff for what would the civs we are making look like, right? Like, so once we know generally what we're going to do, that's when I come in and we start doing a lot of historical research with the rest of the designers. We look at, what do we want to portray? How do we want to do it? And then once we have a game plan, once we have our paper designs down, my role is to implement quite a lot of it. So in the game engine, I make sure that, all the bonuses are what we want. I implement the units and the civs and the stats and the upgrades and the abilities and all that stuff, all that good stuff. And I work with the engineer team and then to make sure that it's all working. And then I work with the balance playtesters who are in this game with me. So I'm FE Frank, and then the rest are the bounce team, and I work with them to make sure that the vision that we initially planned for the civ is actually fun and worthwhile. And so they playtest the game every day, and we work on design iteration, and then that hones in on balance iteration, so that at the end of the day, hopefully we have a very fun DLC, a very fun civ to add to the game.
I was just thinking to myself, it sounds like an incredibly rewarding job. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. But yeah, it sounds like an incredibly rewarding job being able to not only just play video games, but obviously games that you love, and to be able to design them and do that kind of stuff. So yeah, well, thank you once again for joining me and for giving us the opportunity here to sit down and have a chat about this DLC. So let's talk a little bit about this game and what's going on at the moment, because I'm noticing that this map is a little bit unfamiliar to me. What is this map that we're looking at?
So this is Highwoods, I believe. It's one of the new maps offered in Knights of Cross and Rose. It sort of features this central hill with a lot of small forests on it. So players have to kind of find a way to get there. There's a decent amount of wood there around the edge. The map is slightly more open, especially between the players. So it's just an interesting map, a little tighter than Arabia would be, for example, and High View, for example. But it plays quite differently. And it's pretty interesting trying to navigate the kind of maze of forests that get created here. Some of these can create surprising little walls. And you can see here, yeah, there's a lot of resources kind of tucked away in these little pockets. So plenty of spaces to wall, but also plenty of spaces to surprise your opponent. And really excited to see how this map plays out once it's out there in the big worlds.
Yeah, it definitely looks exciting. It kind of reminds me a bit of High View, just in the way that the wood lines are being used so aggressively, but also so defensively. So what was the mindset, do you think, behind Mike and attacking with spearmen on a map where the gold and the stone appear to spawn so close to the town center? Do you think he got much value out of these early spearmen?
I'm not sure he got a ton of value, but we'll see. I think he was just having some fun, trying something out, right? It's always interesting to see if you can put your opponent on the back foot. Potentially, it's good here to deny Proth scouts if it were to come in from Matt, who's on the Chinese, for example. And there's other things that it can do. It can also be just disruptive, which is really nice when it complements Felipe's civ here. The Lancaster, we just talked about them and the manners, but it's a civ that can really do well if they have a bunch of extra time to get things done. We could see an FC from Felipe
That's a fast castle.
with a lot of manners to support it. Yeah, a fast castle with a lot of manners to support it is really potent from Lancaster. So that could be something we see from them.
All right, well, let's talk a little bit about the age up that's coming through. The commandery that is being selected here is the Principality of Antioch. There's also two other different choices that you can make, the Kingdom of France or the Knights Hospitaller. Tell us a little bit about the Principality of Antioch, and obviously you've touched on the whole reasoning behind a lot of these commanderies and why they were selected for the times that they were sort of part of the Knights Templar. What went into the decision making behind each individual one, though? Did you have a tier list and you said this one's going to be the most interesting because it's the Genoese and the crossbows are famous throughout the world?
Yeah, it was sort of a mix of that, plus we wanted some of them to feel a little nitty-gritty. Like, Principality of Antioch is probably one of the crusading states that people don't really know of. It was sort of north of Jerusalem in kind of modern-day Syria, right? And it was the principality was built up a lot by Normans and French combined, right? So you have people coming from all over the place. And here we see the sergeant, which is their axe throwing unit. That's mostly just for fun that it throws axes, right? But it's cool. Sergeant just sort of means man-at-arm style unit, right? So we kind of took the liberty here to just make a fun axe thrower because it's unique to the game and new. But yeah, in terms of like all the choices together, we went for a mix of familiarity for people, but also maybe a chance to learn. So hopefully maybe one day someone Googles who the heck was the Principality of Antioch, right? And then they learn something about the time period, right? So mix of that plus Kingdom of France, which hopefully not too many of our users would feel the need to Google.
Never heard of them. Anyway.
Never heard of France, eh?
No, never heard of them.
I know. Yeah.
So let's shift the discussion a little bit. I want to talk about strategy because back when I used to play Age of Empires 3, I was a little bit of a geek. I actually won a world championship in team games. So immediately when I saw a civilization that is similar to my old favorite civilization and I saw a team game, the first thing I recognized is, hold on a minute, I've seen this strategy before. So we've got some aggression coming out from Mike on one side of the map. He's trying to draw you guys out because obviously you're playing on the other side, Frank. He's trying to draw you guys out and trying to grab your attention. Meanwhile, behind this, we've got Felipe, who is going absolutely crazy with the economic booming.
Yeah, exactly. It seems like that's the plan here for Mike and Felipe. So we'll see how that pans out for them.
Well, I'm excited to see. No spoilers, okay? Because you played in the game.
I'm not going to spoil because I was the opponent.
You're not
so
gonna...
that's my prelate running around, but we won't talk about that. I'm doing my best.
Don't talk about how you dunk on them just yet, okay? We need to leave that for later on in the video.
So spoilers, right, guys?
There's been an age up that's come through. Let's see if Felipe is going to be able to handle this, because interestingly, he's going for a stable. So we do see it is going to be the Hobbler. We don't actually have the in-game timer at the moment, but I can tell you guys now because I can see it in the top right-hand corner. It is 7 minutes and 40 seconds, so we're quite deep into this game already. It's a decent age-up timing from you, Frank, but you're able to snipe away that first relic. Are we feeling good about yourself?
Indeed. But yeah, I'm definitely aware of what's going on over here from Mike is really interesting. So he's trying to take map control, and an interesting note about the Sergeant is that it actually deals melee damage. So it's kind of a new archetype in the game. This is dealing melee damage from range. So this is the first of its kind in that sense. So it's actually extremely effective against buildings. Look at the village taking damage. It's forcing repairs from Matt quite frequently.
Yeah, this is really strong. We see something similar in Age of Empires 2 for anyone who's obviously played that game. They'll be familiar with. I think for me, the first unit that stuck out was the throwing axeman, because we've got an axe and you're being thrown and throwing axemen, but it's got that same mechanic of melee from range, which is very unique and can be incredibly difficult to deal with. I think initially when I was looking at this unit, I was thinking to myself, when would you actually want to use this? And then all of the, you start to look at the numbers that it's got. Okay, well, hold on, it's got 4 melee armor. That's a lot of melee armor. So, those combos that you often see of people going spearmen and horsemen together, I think it's going to be very effective against those types of players.
Yeah, but it is extremely weak to ranged units. So even though it looks quite heavily armored, that 0 ranged armor means that, yeah, archers are just generally quite effective here, and they're going to be the main counter in Feudal Age.
Yeah, so they are a heavy melee infantry unit as well, which means the archers don't technically get that counter, that bonus damage against them. However, obviously, they do actually counter them just because of, I mean, if we just look at the numbers and the armor and that sort of thing, then they will eventually do that. More fights over.
Yeah, and same with the crossbow, getting the bonus damage.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, the crossbow's actually going to get that bonus damage. So we'll look out to see what happens a little bit later on. We might bring up the income or maybe current resources. It doesn't really tell us a whole lot at the moment. I'm just curious to see exactly what Felipe is thinking at the moment with regard to his game plan. But we can see the age up has now come through. Let's take a look at the King's College. Tell us a little bit about this age 3 landmark for the House of Lancaster.
Yeah, so the King's College is a military tech landmark where it gives you a global discount to all techs, and you can see the first tech coming through from it. It has access to 6 unique techs, and that was Collar of S's, which Felipe just finished. Collar of S's means that your Knights and Demi-Lancers, we talked about Demi-Lancers in the previous game, those gain bonus damage against armored units. So it's kind of makes them a little crossbow-esque, but especially on the knights, that can be really effective. It makes them better against enemy knights. It makes them really good against man-at-arms. So an interesting pickup here, and I believe a group of Demi-Lancers is about to spawn.
Indeed, they
from
are.
here.
Okay.
And so you can click on them and you can see their damage.
They get +6
They
against
do have
heavy.
+6 for heavy, yes.
Which isn't going to come in much use against these standard spearmans, because these spearmen are light units. But I'm sure throughout the game it will definitely find some value here. He's managed to drop down 5 manners at the moment. He's also got them within the influence of the Lancaster Castle. We'll actually switch over to his perspective, and we can see that he's got a little bit of an influence bonus. So the way that this works is similar to the Holy Roman Empire and their emergency repairs aura is probably the best way to think about it, in that all of the buildings that are around the Lancaster Castle, at least all the manors, will get this nice little bonus. So it's a bonus to health, as well as an arrow slit emplacement. So I think there's definitely going to become quite a discussion about the best way to be placing these down so that you're optimizing both their safety, but at the same time, their defensive strength.
Yeah, exactly. You want to try and find a way to make good use of them. Now, the manor, you don't really have to, right? It doesn't affect the income you're going to get, which is the main reason you would build manors in the first place. But it's definitely an interesting element of their base design. Like, where do you build the manors? How do you protect them? Do you try and make use of the arrows to defend your vills or not? It's definitely an interesting element and a big question mark.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fun to see how players utilize them. One of the key differences between Age of Empires 3, which is obviously where I've drawn a lot of parallels with the Dutch, and Age of Empires 4, is the fact that your units can actually walk between buildings. So in Age of Empires 3, you could build banks next to each other and they would effectively work as a wall. Whereas here in Age of Empires 4, that is not the case. And it means that you're able to squeeze units through. So there's definitely going to be a little bit more discussion, I think, is probably the best way to say it. We're going to have to wait and see exactly how things pan out for it and which way people go. But the next age up has come through from Mike. Let's take a look and see which age up he's gone for. Sorry, I didn't catch that. We'll take a look and see. Do you see the flag?
You can see the flag, yeah.
Yes, it looks like,
so
is
that
this
is
Castile?
the Kingdom of Castile, yeah. And you can see the unit that you gain access to also just in the TC. And so that is the Genitor, which is a mounted javelin thrower. So if you're familiar with the Malians, you'll know about the javelin thrower. And this is essentially a version of that unit on a horse. It does not cost gold, however. So it's a food wood unit that is a ranged cav archer, essentially. But it has very high ranged armor, and its attack rate is very slow, but it has really good punching power against ranged units.
All right, well, we see one in queue at the moment. It's got 60 food and 60 wood on the cost. Now, I tell you what, one of the things I realized when I first clicked on this unit is it packs a punch, but only really against ranged units. Take a look at the damage that it starts out with. It is a piddly 5 damage. But the good news is, obviously, it's got that 10 bonus damage against ranged units. So it's one of these units that really rewards you for actually shooting the correct target. So I'd say this is a bit more of an expert level unit, because you really want to make sure you're hitting the right thing with this. If you're fighting up against men-at-arms, I suspect you're going to have a bit of trouble with the Genitor.
Yeah, there's certainly a case to be made that you need to be in the right situation for the Genitor, as is with a lot of the units that you can gain from the commandery system with Templar. It tends to be like that, right? We want to make sure that, you know, you're picking the right unit for the game, right? There's some strategy, there's some thought behind it, right? So you want to make sure you're making the right choice. And as Matthew has been making a lot of Zhugnu from the Chinese, it kind of makes sense. If you get just into a big battle with a bunch of Zhugnu against Genitors, it could be a very sensible choice here.
Yeah, we do see there's quite a few of them out on the map at the moment. Now, I have a question for you just with regard to balance. How do you go about balancing the Knights Templar, considering the situation that we've got at the moment? The Knights Templar typically are going to be balanced around sacred sites, and where those sacred sites land on the map will depend on how easy it is for their pilgrims to go on pilgrimage, or what's the correct term for what they're doing right now? They're traveling? Is that the right way to say it?
Pilgrimage is the mechanic, right? So I think that would make sense to me, pilgrimage. But, you know, as is with a lot of game lingo, it doesn't matter what I call it. It's going to be what the community calls it in the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
That's what it'll get known as. But yeah, in terms of the balancing here, we sort of just have an expected income for the player, and we make sure that in maps where it is generally safer like this, you know, it's going to be pretty hard to get in there and defend this and attack this, but it's also like a trade line. If you're able to get in there, you're going to do a lot of damage because it is a vast, like, open area behind their base. So it's kind of like, in this case, we don't have any cavalry, so in a team game, it's pretty hard to shut down, you know, back behind the base economy without cav. So that's just sort of the nature of it, right?
Yeah, and that's exactly it. There's lots of ways that you could try and deal with it, but especially being so far away, it could be difficult. But we've got a bit of a battle that's unfolding. A Walla attempt on the east. Not going to be doing too much. We're going to focus here. Perhaps we can see the yeoman, and whether or not we can pull out that synchronized shot, we'll be riding on board with Felipe here. Let me bring up Felipe. There we go. So we can see his synchronized shot. So he hasn't actually researched it yet.
It's in queue.
Oh.
So yes, it is an
it's
ability that you need to research. It is made cheaper with the King's College here. So it's also a tech where, you know, it's not just an ability that deals a flat amount of damage, right? Each yeoman will do the ability and shoot 3 arrows, right? So it's kind of an ability you want when you have a lot of yeomen, right? Because the more yeoman you do, the more max potential damage you can do in a single volley. As we'll see here, potentially. Oh, a little unfortunate positioning.
Oh, those Nest of Bees. Looks like they haven't had their damage changed, I tell you what. Actually, that's something
They actually have.
Oh, have they? Okay, there you go.
Yeah, in this patch, their damage is... actually, their HP is lowered, I believe, and their damage...
It's a swing and a miss.
The number of rockets was reduced by 1. The thing is, they're still they're always gonna be good against the ranged units.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That was one of the questions I had for you. This is not just for everybody watching, but also for me. What are some of the major changes that you've made across into this new DLC? Because obviously we're getting 2 new civilizations. There's been a whole bunch of work that was done. So as an example, caster mode's also got a nice little update to it, which gives us some things that were really missing. What are some of the key primary differences that players will experience when they're playing their games when it comes to whether balance or design or anything?
Yeah, so I can talk about a few things here. So one of the main major updates is the point of interest system, which isn't on this map nor the map we watched before, but if you check out some of the other creator interviews I'm doing, there are going to be points of interest highlighted there. The points of interest are little map mechanics, capture points, if you will, that players can interact with that are going to really spice up the maps that we've put them on. So at the start, it's just going to be a few maps, and we'll see the reaction to them and see how many more maps we can add them to in the future, depending on community feedback, of course.
Yeah.
Other elements are... oh, sorry, do you want me to keep going?
No. I was just going to throw in a little comment about they were pretty fun. I enjoyed using them, and yeah, they're good. I like them.
Yeah, nice. It's really exciting. The patch notes will have a full breakdown of what they are and what you can expect from them. But as an example, you can hire some Lost Ronin. You can fight some really aggressive wolves for some gold. You can uncover relics. It's all sorts of cool things that we're looking forward to in the free update alongside Knights of Cross and Rose. Alongside that, like you've mentioned, there's a couple bug fixes to caster mode. We've updated HRE, the civ that I'm playing in this game, although I'm not sure I'm going to get to it. They can add a new unit, the Black Rider. They have access to a new tech. We've changed a few parts of the balance across Siege and a couple things like that. Nothing too major in that category, though. But still a suite of balance adjustments based on the current meta. Notably, like Professional Scouts in the current meta is quite strong, so a couple nerfs there. There's some changes to various animations as well. Not massive changes here, but for example, the Horseman attack animation has been made to look more aggressive. Crossbowmen use more of their reload and have more animation. Hand cannons have a better animation now. So a couple changes across the board to those. Yeah, some other changes, trying to think off the top of my head. There's 2 new maps for free in the updates, as well as the 10 maps in the DLC, for example. So quite a lot of stuff coming in the update alongside the 2 civilizations.
And will we see those new maps in the ranked map pool?
I believe some of them, yes.
Very exciting. It's always nice to have new maps in the ranked map pool because we're still working out exactly how to play all of them. Now, there was a unit that you mentioned a little bit earlier, and you alluded to the fact that you might or you might not make it in this game. The Black Rider, which once again immediately gets me excited. For Age of Empires 3 players, you will know the Black Rider is a mercenary unit, one of the strongest units in the game for Age of Empires 3. Is it the same case here? Is it still as strong as it was back there?
Well, I can't speak to the exact balance of Age of Empires 3. I'm not the most familiar with like the precision of the balance there, but in general, yeah, it's an armored mounted hand cannoneer. So.
Wow.
A lot of big words right there,
yeah,
right?
That's a good combo.
A lot of big words.
If you were going to put a combo together like that, that's definitely one of them. That is it. Wow. Okay, so mounted, armored, hand cannoneer.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys really went for everything, didn't you? You did. That is wild. Okay, cool.
Oh, it's got to be someone, so why not me? Said the HRE guy, right?
Yeah. Okay. So is it unique to the HRE?
Yes, it'll be a new unique unit for the HRE in the free update alongside Knights of Cross and Rose.
Wonderful. Okay, well, I look forward to seeing it. I'm hoping, is it more expensive? Is it the same price? How much are we going to have to fork out for that?
300 res. It's an expensive guy. It's an expensive guy.
300. Okay, 300 resources. I'm sure you guys have done all the appropriate balances, and it's absolutely fine.
Early.
Surely, he says. Oh gosh, I look forward to seeing how Beastie and other professionals completely break the game in this patch. But yeah, we'll wait and see. Okay, well, it looks like you guys
have little incrementals, right? We'll have a small patch, you know, not shortly after to address some of the most immediate balance concerns, as we always do, especially with new content. You know, we're aware we're not going to hit the mark 100% on the balance, so
yeah,
look forward to a small little patch pretty quickly, right, to make sure that, you know, if something's completely broken, we'll try and resolve the balance issues quickly.
Yeah, no, it's understandable, especially because obviously, I mean, you got to appreciate, like, there's only a handful of balance testers, and then all of a sudden you take that out to a sample size of, what, thousands of, not even thousands, tens of thousands of games every single day. Things are going to develop a lot faster. But I think generally you guys do a pretty good job with balance, so hats off. But speaking of hats off, I think these guys are going to need to put their helmets on because they're getting raided. Now, it feels like it's not doing a whole lot of damage back here. It's annoying. It feels like, I think these builds think they're getting tickled by the javelins here. Each one is doing 6 damage.
A bunch of builds went down. It's still damage. Still damage.
Yeah, there's about 46 javelins that went into this guy before he decided to call it quits. I'll tell you what, that is... I guess they're quick. They've got long range. That's one of the good things about the Genitor. But it definitely, when it comes to the damage side, it's definitely a bit lacking unless it's against ranged units. Now we've just seen another age up come through over on the east side here. What is that third and final flag? It looks like, oh, I see a unit right here. That is a very exciting unit.
That is the Teutonic Order.
Yes.
That is the Teutonic Order, and that is the Teutonic Knight of a lot of fame. A lot of people know this order as well, the military orders. A couple of them are very well known. Of course, the Teutonic Knights had to make an appearance in Age of Empires 4 eventually. Becomes available to train at the barracks. I think you'll have to switch player perspective there.
There we go.
Yeah, and there you have it. It's actually not the most expensive infantry, but it is quite high on the gold price, but you get just such a powerful unit. You can see a line of them there from Mike, and that's a lot of potency. It's very slow, very well countered by crossbows, of course, but they have an aura that reduces the armor of nearby enemies, as well as they gain permanent stats whenever they kill a unit. Now, that's only them. When the one unit gets attributed with a kill, right? So it's not like 5 guys take someone down, they all benefit, but it can really start to add up if you're able to keep them alive and heal them up. As you see the Castilian bonus healing up all the units on the hill here.
Yeah, so the best way you can tell is if a unit's got that or not is it'll have different stats from everybody else. So we'll look for them as we go. Now, I've asked for this before, and I'll ask for it again now that I've got you, but I would love to see the ability to see a kill counter on individual units.
Yeah. That's a really nice.
Just because, like, especially now with the Teutonic Knight, it's a unit that gets a bonus from that. I think it would be really beneficial if we were able to say, okay, that right there, that's our hero. We got to keep him alive.
That's a really good idea. That's a really good idea.
All right, well, Nesta B's firing off, doing a fair bit of damage into the center of the mass. The Ayyubids still at the back here. Could look to try and get off that synchronized shot. the Teutonic Knights on the front. You can see just how strong they are. Keep in mind that aura is going to be debuffing all the units that are around them, so it means that the men-at-arms here are going to be taking even more damage from the yeomen at the back. And there it is, the synchronized shot coming through. Snipes out the first of the nest of bees. Second one, not quite, but the Trebs will get it out. And it looks like it might be a bit of a difficult spot for you guys. Frank, what's going on?
Teutonic Knights and Yeomen are good. That's what's happening here. Also, I think I'm just falling apart game-wise. Don't look at the score. Don't look at the score. Don't look at the score.
Oh, wow. I just looked at the score. Frank, what's going on? Talk to me.
I got attacked.
You did go for an L's back.
No, that's the...
Let's take a look. Oh, sorry, Swabia.
Oh, yeah.
Apologies. Yeah, you're only on 72 Vils at the moment. Frank,
I got attacked.
You got to start pressing Q a little bit more. There we go. There we go. All right.
It's happening. It's happening. Slow and steady, man. Slow and steady.
All right. Well, let's right on board here with Mike, because obviously playing as the Knights Templar, he's going to have a lot of tempo in this late game now that he's gone for these Teutonic Knights. Can you tell me a little bit about the bonus that the Teutons or the Teutonic? What is their commandery called? So I just know
so it is the Teutonic Knights. This is a case where it's like commandery, a little bit of a stretch. It was an alliance. They fought together in a lot of the Crusades. They fought together famously against the Mongols together in one of the Crusades out in the steppes of Eastern Europe, right? But yeah, you get 2 melee armor on all of your gold costing military units. So very potent here. You can see that bonus somewhat there, where they have 6+4 melee armor, which means that the total max is quite high, as you can get quite a lot of melee armor.
And this, of course, is going to scale because each kill that these guys get, they also get 5 health. And obviously that 5 health is going to have armor applied to it. So it's one of those little stacking things that starts to really pay dividends the longer the game goes and the more often you can keep your units alive. But a little bit of a struggle at the moment for Mike here, as he is dealing with the crossbows, and they've got that new animation. You can see the way that they're sort of turning around the crossbow. It's a little bit different from what the previous animation was.
Yeah, indeed, the crossbow. So now the Castle Age crossbow will do the downward crank, kind of, where they put the crossbow on the ground, and then the elite crossbows now all do this top crank crossbow.
That's really cool.
Animation.
I didn't even know that was a thing, but that is super duper cool, isn't it? Yeah, the little animation. It's how do you guys go about doing the modeling for this, or doing the?
Well, this didn't change any of the attack speeds or anything. We just changed some stuff around on the animation side. So the attack speed and DPS output is the same. We're just showing more. The animation is a little sped up and stuff like that, right? Like we're just showing it better, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Well, so far, it's been a tough battle for you guys. This little choke point has been a disaster. There's just been... I think the synchronized shot has done very well in these little corridors. Yeah. I suspect on a map like Dry Arabia, it's going to be a lot harder for you to pull off those crazy strong shots. And have a look at this. Talk about an Ed Sheeran song right here. What have we got here? Fortress on a Hill.
Yeah, Fortress on a Hill with a trebuchet on top with a couple treasure chests showcasing all the flags of the Egypt, right? That's a good song. Really cool shot.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Ed Sheeran,
yeah. Sorry, I was making an Ed Sheeran joke.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you're in danger here. Your Swabia has gone down, and your ally Matthew is coming in to defend you. The Yeoman a little bit overextended here. So they wanted to be cautious. Let's see if they get their synchronized shot off.
They just used it there on the back line.
Oh, did they?
You can see, though, there's just a lot going on for us here on our side, Matt and I. Things are tricky.
Indeed they are. Let's take a look at the economy that's beginning to build up here. So Mike has invested quite a bit into the fortresses now. So not only is he getting the gold bonus, he's also getting those additional pilgrims that are starting to pilgrimage, starting to travel, starting to walk. I don't know what the best way to say it is, but you can see this is a decent amount of gold that's coming through here. So that's 156 gold. And I heard a sound just then. What was that sound? It was like a drum beat sound.
That was the Pilgrim Loan being started, I believe.
Ah.
If you check out the Pilgrim Loan.
Let's see if we can find the market.
You would need to find a market, indeed.
Okay.
Ideally, the market that started it would even show the little animation.
That's a trading post. There's the market right there. I don't think this is the market.
The timer on it.
Yeah, I can see the timer.
It's still going to have it. You can still see that.
But yeah.
I'm not sure where the market he clicked it is.
Let's see if we can find it, though, because it does have a cool animation that we definitely should show off, if we can find it. Where else could it be?
Lots of base.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe that? No.
No, it's not his.
Well,
don't worry, we will find it
just not gonna
eventually.
find it.
Maybe it's in the middle of the map. That's where I sometimes build my markets. No, it's not there. I wonder if that's the one that started it, and it's just... Maybe it is. Maybe it's not.
I'm not sure.
Well, we're just gonna...
Oh, whatever. We can talk about the mechanic
yeah, we'll
anyways.
talk about the mechanic and less about the animation, but yeah, it's a cool little mechanic. I like it a lot. So, which one are you normally opting for? Are you always going for the excuse me, the most expensive one whenever you can afford it?
Yeah, in general, right? So one of the big downsides of Templar, right, is that you don't have access to trade normally, right? So late game, when the gold runs out, if you don't have a ton of fortresses, your gold income is really limited, right? So the Pilgrim Loan is a way for you to convert food to gold. It's just a game mechanic. It's obviously referring to the Pilgrims and the fact that the Knights Templar were kind of one of the first international banks. So pilgrims on their travels, historically, they would kind of stash their cash at a Templar fortress, right? And then on their pilgrimage, they would have these banknotes, essentially, the first ever banknotes in recorded history, right? Where they would walk around to the next fortress, right? The next Templar holding, if you will, and they would be able to exchange the written note for food and shelter and maybe new clothes, for example. And the main benefit of this, and the reason this happened, was pilgrims on their travels would get robbed, so that's why they traveled with nothing, right? So they would stash all their wealth with the Templars and then travel, and that's part of the power base of the Templars historically. And so that's how we've captured the idea here. Also kind of solving a small gameplay like technicality where, you know, without traders, it's a big negative in big team games like this, right? So if you're able to get a lot of farmers going, like you can see Mike here has 79 farmers to ensure a lot of food for his units, but also so that he can afford these pilgrim loans, which helps him with a very stable food to gold conversion via the pilgrim loans.
Yeah, this is an interesting mechanic, and I suspect it might be a difficult one in the coming future, just considering how little they're going to need to rely on gold veins. We can see even right now, we've got Mike that's just allowing his ally to come and gather up all of his gold because he doesn't need it. He's got 0 vils on gold here. Obviously, he can still gather gold. It's just that he doesn't need to. He's got so much of it that's generating at the moment, more than 2,000 gold. Now, obviously, that's through the Pilgrim Loan, but it's also through the pilgrimages that are happening. So at the moment, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pilgrims that are on pilgrimage. Each one of these, I think, pulling in about 130, 140 gold. So it is, it's quite a substantial amount that is coming in here.
Mm-hmm. Indeed, it is. The main source of the economic power for Templars is the gold generation in the late game. Now, keep in mind that does come at the cost of, well, they don't really have any food bonuses late game outside of a little bit of food from wood and stuff like that. They don't have a ton of other economic power, so it's really in that, big synchronized shots coming in.
Now, one thing that we didn't talk about yet in this game, which people may have noticed, but you don't actually get lumber camps as the Knights Templar. In fact, if we take a look at any of the wood gathering villages, they're just doing their thing. They're minding their own business, and you can see the wood going up. It doesn't go up in sets of 10. It's going up one at a time. And that's representative of every single bit of wood that's being chopped here. So that's another little detail to keep in mind when you're playing as the Knights Templar. You won't have access to that lumber camp. But Frank, we're about to wrap things up here. Have you got any last words or anything else that you'd like to say before we witness you tapping out? There we go.
Before I GG out of this, yeah, my farms are gone, my base is gone. I am dead for sure. Yeah. What can I say here other than really excited? Thank you for having me on, Drongo. I'm really glad we got the chance to talk about this. And yeah, Knights of Crossum Rose was a big project for our whole team across World's Edge, Relic, FE, the different teams involved. We're really excited to bring this to you all, and we hope you enjoy it when it comes out on April 8th.
Well, there you guys have it. Thank you once again, Frank, and I look forward to April 3rd, which is when the creator preview begins. As you mentioned, on April 8th, we've got the DLC that is going to begin. So looking forward to that, and looking forward to getting to play on the ranked ladder with my new main civilization, the House of Lancaster. But yeah, awesome. Other than that, I mean, the final question for you, which civ are you going to be playing first on the ranked ladder? Is it House of Lancaster? Is it the Knights Templar?
I'm a Templar boy, I think, for my first game, but I'll probably quickly switch between, so both civs. is my answer once again. I can't pick. You can't make me pick between them. Come on, Trunko. That's so unfair.
It is. It is. All right. Well, once again, thank you very much for joining us, and thank you to FE, World's Edge, and everybody over on your side for giving me early access to take a look here at this new DLC. So, folks, you'll be able to play on the 8th of April, so make sure you check it out if you haven't already, and we'll catch you in the next one. Thank you very much for watching.